Who's winning? And who's up shit creek without a paddle? This is your stop for unbiased election projections with BS free talk, analysis, and one cranky politico's insight into the very future of the world you live in. Broadcasting from the gateway to the motherlode in Waterford, California. This is the Election Recon Podcast. And now, he's carpet-bombing partisan zealots back to the Stone Age by delivering cold, hard reality to the fanatics first class. Your host, Army veteran, political operative, and election junkie, Josh Whitfield.
Welcome back to the Election Recon Podcast. This is the oasis of reality. I'm your host, Josh Whitfield. That is my, I think you're in probation. You're a probationary co-host. Alyssa Silva, my assistant, we figured she has to help me succeed in everything else I do in life because I'm incapable of succeeding on my own. Therefore, we brought her on the podcast.
Really, it's just a little bit of support in the background.
It's a lot of support. I'm a hot mess. That's why you're here. I mean, seriously, that's why you started working for me 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hot mess, and everyone above me in rank and structure said, hey, this guy does way too much, and he's a jack of all trades, master of none. And somebody has to clean up behind him because his wife gave up. His wife gave up. Is that true?
Yeah. Basically, we took on more tasks, and I just got better at cleaning. So that's what happened.
That sounds about right. Anyway, again, welcome to the Oasis of Reality. This is episode 5 of this 2022 election season for you guys. Thank you for everybody who's tuning in either on YouTube or wherever you can find this podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, the Google store, all these things. I don't know. They want me to read them all off, and I don't have the time or patience for that. But anywhere you can find the podcast, including our website at electionrecon.com. If you're interested and you're a data geek like me and you want to see where our model is, we update it every week on Wednesdays right now. When we get closer to the election, we'll update it daily. But right now, we run the model once a week, and you can find that at electionrecon.com. Again, you can find us on social media at not electionrecon.com, but electionrecon, at electionrecon. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So please find us there. And of course, you can find us on YouTube at electionrecon as well. This is Thursday, August 18th. It's a very important time for me, Alyssa. You want to know why this is my favorite time?
Why?
Because my wife is exactly 15 days older than me. And her birthday just happened on the 15th of August, 3 days ago. So for the next 15 days, I torture her because my birthday is August 30th. Yours is the 22nd.
Yep.
See?
Fall right in between. Oh my, it's right in between, isn't it? 8 and 7.
I don't know. Let's not do math. This is a show about math, really, election math. But let's not show the fallacy that we really have. We have zero math skills.
None.
Between you and I, Lauren's different. She's one of those people that like never left the classroom. Mm-hmm. But between you and I, there's like maybe 25% of a math student there combined.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Let's not do math. It's bad for everybody. But back to the point is this is a very important time for me because for the next now like 11 days, I just get to torture my wife with cougar jokes, cradle robbing jokes, and she literally is 15 days older than me, and it's great because I get to just torture her with cougar jokes. So it's a good time for me. How I've been married for 7 years, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. That being said, Silva, cigar of the day is yet again another Cohiba, because it has yet been another busy week for us, and I've had time to replenish my stock, as you can say. So for those of you that are looking for the cigar of the day, yet another simple, cheap, generic, uninteresting Cohiba cigar. But here we are. Today on the show, Alyssa, we're going to talk about obviously the election snapshot, where the election is. A lot of movement to the left. Republicans probably are about to turn off the podcast right now, because Republicans don't have any good news for you this week. None whatsoever. Not even a little bit do I have for you from our model. But we're also going to talk about why I don't think Democrats should celebrate yet. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about especially why, Democrats are out there saying this is all about this Roe versus Wade decision. And every poll that I've seen, Roe isn't even in the top 5 issues moving voters. It's still about the economy. We're going to talk about, I'm not saying that Roe hasn't moved it a half a point or a point. It's just, it's not going to determine, in my opinion, the ultimate outcome of the election. It's going to be about the economy. It's all about the economy, stupid, as the old saying goes. And we're going to talk about why the long-term prospects of the American economy are not good. We're going to talk to a farmer today in the interview segment and really just get it firsthand from these guys who are growing the crops or raising the animals. And your family's dairy. Yeah. So, you know exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And how that gets to the grocery stores and how that hurts people who are on fixed or low incomes. When you're spending $6 a gallon for milk and you have a lower fixed income, that matters. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the political elite who talk to people on TV every day, they don't get it. They couldn't even tell you what the price of milk was, because they probably send someone else to get their groceries. But let's hear from the farmers themselves about what's going on. And it's a lot of things. It's not just politics. It's the drought, right? It's the climate. It's everything. Everything is impacting. It's the war in Ukraine. It's global politics. It's commodity markets. Everything has a play here. So I'm not just saying, President Biden's bad and that's why the economy's bad. Presidents get blamed for the economy no matter what, whether they have fault in it or not. So we're gonna talk about that. In the Grunt's Perspective segment today, a few people have written in who are like, okay, you don't really care about these issues. I really get upset about these things. And the Finnish Prime Minister is all over international news today because she had the audacity, Alyssa, at 36 years old, youngest woman ever to hold that office, youngest person ever, man or woman, to hold that office, Prime Minister of Finland, a sovereign and independent country. And yet the United States, England, Australia, the rest, Germany, all these other news outlets across the world feel like they have the right to criticize the Prime Minister of Finland for having the audacity to be at a private residence with her friends having a good time. And then, of course, we're going to answer your questions in the three-pointer segment. And they're piffy today, aren't they, Alyssa?
They had some things to say.
They're a little piffy. You guys got a little mouthy last week about the show. So we have thick skin here. So, if you ever want to write into us, give us a comment or a question, we may bring it on the show in the three-pointer segment. That's at Elect Recon, Elect Singular Recon at gmail.com. Because we don't have our own email because, this is a low-budget show. So, it is what it is. So without further ado, Alyssa, because we've gone long here in the lead, let's talk about the election, shall we? Let's talk about the election. The election this week significantly has moved to the left. In our model, Democrats now hold an advantage in our generic ballot aggregate. At Real Clear Politics, Democrats now hold an advantage in the generic ballot test. At 538.com, Democrats now hold an advantage in the generic ballot test. by less than a point, but it's significant because Republicans were up at 1 point, 3.5 points in all of our models aggregates. Okay. I know a lot of Republicans out there, a lot of conservatives, a lot of MAGA, red hat wearing folks don't trust polls. And you know what? You shouldn't. The polling has been terrible. I have a lot of issues with the polls that I'm reading over the last 30 days. But I can't discount the fact that every poll, conservative, neutral, left, liberal, Republican, Democrat, private, public, whatever, everyone's showing the same shift to the left. And our model is gonna reflect that. Only 1/4 of what goes into our model is polling. But another reason our model is moving back towards the middle is because the economy has gotten a touch better. But I believe the shift back to the left is soft and it can be moved back to the right. That being said, I know a lot of you conservatives write in and you send me a lot of hate mail, but I just don't know of a better way to take a snapshot at an election other than a scientific poll. We say that time week in and week out. And yes, so our model has moved to the left because polling for the last 30 days has trended to the left, and now it's starting to really reflect in our model. We now have it in our model that Democrats are winning the Senate, or maintaining control of the Senate, I should say, 64 out of 100 times we run our model. It's 64% of the time. They did pick up a seat this week. That was in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin, as you can see on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube, Wisconsin Senate race, Mandela Barnes now on top of incumbent Ron Johnson in our model. That leaves the Democrats at 52 seats with the vice presidency as well, and 48 seats for Republican. That's a pickup of 2 seats, our model says now. We also had a flip with the Wisconsin governor in our model. Tony Evers now on top of Tim Michels for the first time in the election recon model. That's a pickup of 1 seat for the Democrats in 2 years, according to the election recon model. 26 states now for Republicans, 24 states with Democratic governors. 2 other flips this week, Alyssa, in our model come from the House. That's Oregon's 5th, Jamie McLeod Skinner, now on top of Lori Chavez DeRemer. That's a race that has flipped a couple times now in our model. Very close race there. Also, close to home to us in the California 13th, Adam Gray now on top of John Duarte in our model by a very slim margin. And I think, folks, I know there was such jubilee from Republicans local to where we broadcast this show when that race flipped in our model. People just need to slow down. When we're talking about flips in our model, we're talking about tenths of a point. Like this, our model, this is close, and we're going to see these races flip back and forth. That's just kind of the way that it is. Republicans now just favored to pick up 11 seats in our model. That's the lowest they've been so far since we started running the model this year. 225 seats projected for the Republicans, 210 now for the Democrats. Republicans' chances of winning control of the House still pretty secure, but as low as it's ever been for us at 83%. Some non-flip rating changes for us this week in our model. All of them in favor of the Democrats. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see this. Washington Senate moving towards more favorably for the Democrats. Ohio Senate, Florida Senate, California's 40th Congressional District, Colorado 7th, the Virginia 10th, and the North Carolina 1st Congressional District all moved in our model towards the Democrats in rating changes this week. So let's take a look now at the RCP aggregate for the presidential's approval rating. The presidential approval rating not gone up much. You've seen a lot in the news this week, Alyssa, about President Biden improving. His numbers are just so much better. They're not. They're like 1.5 points better. He literally 6 in 10 voters still don't like this guy. That's not healthy. Okay, the president of the United States he's in a better position than he was 30 days ago, but it's easy to fly like an eagle among monkeys, as they say. It's like you gone from ultra terrible to just really terrible, and that's still really terrible. Mm-hmm. It's better than ultra terrible, but he's the President Biden. The nation does not have confidence in this guy.
Nope.
They don't, and we see it in the data all the time. This week, you can see here at the RCP aggregate, the president's job approval stands 15.3% in the negative underwater, 56% disapprove, 40.7% approve of the president's job performance. What's interesting is we have seen a very significant movement in the generic ballot test. And normally when the president of the United States' approvals and disapprovals go up and down, we see a correlation in the generic ballot test for that president's party. Very interesting for us data geeks and election professionals this cycle, because there is a very different correlation right now from the president's approval ratings to the generic ballot test. Democrats have recovered without question this year now in the generic ballot test. At the beginning of this year, there's a significant swing. We talk about it week in and week out towards the Republican Party that has come down to about net neutral. Basically, it's a tie. Democrats in the RCP aggregate 0.2% in the advantage. But again, I always say this week in, week out. I don't want to be repetitive, but I think folks don't realize. Remember, the electorate was like 1.5 in 2020 for the Democratic Party nationally, and yet Republicans still picked up 12 congressional seats in that election. An election where Democrats took control of the Senate by the slimmest margins and won the White House by pretty slim margins. But victories for the Democratic Party nonetheless. Republicans still did very well down ballot. They took dominant control of state legislatures across the country, almost 2/3, and they won 12 seats in the House of Representatives. So people have to take the news in a whole picture. And I think so many Americans, they get one little piece of news and it's either doom and gloom or cope or celebration and jubilee. And really the average American voter or news consumer doesn't get it because the media doesn't tell the whole story. And that's what we try to do here. That's why we call this the oasis of reality. Do Democrats really have a chance of retaking the House of Representatives? No. I don't believe for it. I do not believe at all, and I say this at the risk of looking like a complete idiot on election night. There is nothing right now that's convincing me that Democrats will retain control of the House. Nothing. I still personally believe Republicans are going to win 15 to 30 seats. We see here at 538 that actually we're kind of in agreement. Their model, which is different than ours, right? There are real differences. That's why our models adjust differently and all this. Their model is, I'm sure, vastly more sophisticated than ours. These guys do this for a living. We do this for fun and because as a hobby and for you guys. But interesting that we do agree in the Senate. 64% of the time, 538 says the Democrats are favored to win the Senate. That's slightly. They say slightly up there because that's true, right? You got to understand what that means is if we round up 4 and 10 times the simulations run, Republicans are winning control of the Senate. 6 and 10 times the Democrats. So that's statistically, Republicans still have a real shot at controlling the Senate. All our models are saying, 538 and ours and all these other models, the Democrats are statistically, in our analysis, in a better position right now. That's all it's saying. People need to understand what that means. In the House, they're significantly to the left of us. They're 77 in 100 for Republicans to win in their House analysis. So that's the election snapshot as you see it. We're going to go back real quickly here and take a look at the scoreboard, the election recon scoreboard that was updated yesterday. We now have the U.S. Senate, 52 seats for the Democrats, 48 for Republicans. In the U.S. House, again, 225 for Republicans, 210 for the Democrats. Governor's races, 26 Republicans in governor's mansions, 24 Democrats is our projection this week. State legislatures, nothing changed. 32 upper chambers for Republicans, 18 for the Democrats, 33 lower chambers in state legislatures for Republicans, 16 for the Democrats. That is the elections snapshot. But let's talk about stuff and why I think we still have entire political lifetimes before we get to election day. This is so early in the game still. So people need to just slow their roll. We're going to talk a little bit about why first off, in every poll that we see, And all we do around here is read polls and geek out on polls, crosstabs, top lines, etc. I cannot think of a poll I've read in the last 30 days that has Dobbs, the abortion Roe versus Wade decision, in the top 5 most important outside of like safe Democratic districts, right? Mm-hmm. I can't think of a poll that I've read that has it in the top 5 of issues. I just can't. And I mean, it's there. It's in the top 10. Liberal voters and a lot of independents do care about this issue. There's no question in my mind that the majority of Americans are pro-choice. That's a hard thing for the religious right and conservatives to hear because they've convinced themselves that they have the majority, but they don't. But it's somewhere in the middle, right? The majority of the country does not believe in no restrictions on abortion, but they don't believe on total restriction of abortion. They're somewhere, the majority of the nation's falling somewhere in the middle. And neither party's base will allow them to find compromise on that issue. So that's why I think there's a lot of fatigue with it. I think there's a lot of people who are like, yes, this is important, but I'm also struggling to put gas in my car. I'm also struggling to put food on the table. It's gotten a little better. Gas prices are down about $1, give or take. I'm not an economist, but the national average has come down. OPEC is producing more barrels of oil. But what's not changing, Alyssa, and this is what we're going to talk about here with our guest, Chris VanderStoel from VanderStoel Farms in California, is the effect of what's going on in agriculture, which is directly affecting prices in the grocery store, which is hurting people's wallets. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
American farmers, as in this report today out by CNN, American farmers are killing their own crops and selling cows because of the extreme drought we're experiencing out here in the southwest of the country. And that drought is expanding to the Midwest. Let's be clear. The drought is getting bigger geographically. But it's something that we've lived with pretty much your entire lifetime.
Yeah. California's I think maybe 1 or 2 years California wasn't in a drought when I've been alive. But other than that, it's either been a drought or an extreme drought.
Basically, I think you're bad luck because when I was a kid, we had like normal seasons. We had full seasons. Like,
those aren't around anymore.
They're not around anymore. It's crazy. Jokes aside, your dad's a dairyman, mm-hmm. and I have to imagine that he feels it every day. I mean, it's the price of milk is up, the price of meat is up because there's less cows out in the world right now, in the market, in the U.S. economy, the U.S. ag economy. There's just less cows, mean less milk, less meat, which supply and demand means more money at the store. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the farmers don't even see that price. The farmers don't get any part of that. They only get the negatives as well. So no one's really winning on either side of it, just in the middle. But yeah, it's difficult for these farmers. They have no water, can't water their crops, can't feed their cows. It's difficult.
It's insane. And we're going to talk about that right now with a friend of the show, friend of ours, Chris VanderStoel. And let's go to our interview with Chris VanderStoel right now. And now joining us here on the Election Recon podcast, first time in the oasis of reality that we call the Election Recon podcast, Chris VanderStoel, a friend of mine, certainly I think a friend of the show now. Chris, you are a farmer in California's Central Valley. You and your family, I'll let you do the backdrop, but essentially you guys came here from Nevada and inherited the Stein agricultural empire, as I like to call it. But you guys really came over and took up the mantle of tree crops and growing things and became, you've been farming for years now here in California's Central Valley, the cornucopia of the world, as I like to call it. Mm-hmm. So I think you're an expert. I think you qualify as an expert as a farmer and as a grower. And I really want to pick your brain today about the effects that the economy is having from soil to the grocery store. And that's really what we want to talk about. But before we get into that, Chris, go ahead and and quickly just kind of give us a background of who you are and how you came to be what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Josh, for having me on. I appreciate that. Like you said, I was born and raised in Nevada, and when I was 18, my family moved here, and that's 2014. And we took over my uncle's almond and walnut farm, and we've been doing that for about 8 years now. And it's been a very good learning curve. I grew up in a dairy and hay ranch, and so almonds and walnuts is completely different. Trees are completely different, but it's been exciting, and I enjoy farming every day with my father. So.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up around here, so I was forced as a child to do some ag jobs, and I knew, yep, send me to war because I ain't not doing this ag stuff.
Yeah, it's sure. Not I'd
rather get shot at.
That's for sure.
No, it's hard work. It's,
I mean,
I don't
this
think
week
farmers
it's 100,
get near enough
103 today, and it's supposed to be 106 on Saturday. So yeah, it's not necessarily fun when it's that hot.
Harvest time. This is the time. You're in the middle of it and giving us your valuable time. So
first
just
week
came out of the field
shaking
trees, right?
Yeah. Yep, just got done shaking about a couple hours ago.
So hey, we've been talking on the show. I've been bloviating for 5 weeks now about that this election is really about the economy, and a lot of the working class folks are angry. They're upset, and they're probably going to act out about it at the ballot box because my listeners are getting sick and tired of hearing me say it, but I am of the firm belief that whatever party figures out this equation, how are you going to make my quality of life better? How are you going to make my cost of living cheaper? And how are you going to protect my children? The first party that figures out that messaging, because that's all I see in polling, is that's just dominating the working class attention right now. Not all the ideological issues, not the social issues. Those three things overwhelmingly right now are dominating the working class, who is the vast majority of voters in the country. You're there. You're at the real beginning. And we said earlier on the show that, listen, yes, gas prices have improved, and that has helped Democrats and the president a little bit, but the prices at the grocery stores, the milk, the eggs, the cheese, the bread, the bread and butter commodities, for lack of a better term, those prices are still high. They're going to get higher. There's nothing the government can do in the short term to fix that, because it's container ships in New York and LA and Houston and Miami, all these major harbors, Seattle, that are just stuck out there in line for weeks and months on end because there's just a backlog. The whole logistical situation in the Western world is screwed up beyond imagination.
It is,
but it also starts here at home. It's not even the imports, right? You're seeing it. Nobody, I'm not a farmer. I'm not an expert in this. You are, but we know herds are smaller. We know crops are being fallowed everywhere in the Southwest, and now really pushing into Texas and the Midwest, where the drought has expanded. You're a California farmer. So since you moved here from Nevada, you've been fighting drought conditions and all this stuff. And really government has gotten in the way. I think, and I work in the government. I know.
Oh yeah.
In Sacramento, we make your life harder every day. Really. We find new ways.
Yeah. The government isn't for the farmer
to make it harder on you.
That's for sure. No, I mean, as like you said, the prices aren't going to get any better because, I mean, our costs are going up. Fuel, they say that the prices are down. Well, it's still hurting us. I mean, the fuel prices are incredibly high, even for our red dye fuel. I mean, it's incredibly high. So everything's really based around petroleum. And so, your chemical costs are up, your fuel prices are up, your labor costs are up. I mean, PVC's up, everything's up right now. And so, until we figure out, like you said, how to lower some of these to improve our quality of life, it's never going to change. And it's just going to be, something that's not going to improve. And prices are crap right now for almonds and walnuts. That's just us. And that's, like you said, that has to do with all supply chain. And I was at our walnut processor meeting the other week, and the ports aren't taking our product. I mean, they have protests in front of our blocking our stuff, so we can't even get our stuff out. And the ships from China don't want to come into Oakland. They go down to Long Beach, or they just head back empty and they get paid more. So, I mean, there's things the government can do to change that. They just don't want to because of the political atmosphere that it is now. And it's really frustrating, especially for a young farmer like me, where there's not much hope, especially in California. Like you said, it's the mecca of farming, or whatever you call it. They're completely against us, and they don't want to help us. And I'm all for some help, and not necessarily payout, but helping to move our product would be great. And that I don't see that in the future at all.
But it's not just gas prices, right? It's also water. I mean,
water.
There's no more vicious a political issue in the United States. I tell people this all the time, and I shock people like, well, Josh, I mean, you're in DC, you're in Sacramento. I mean, it must be BLM and social issues and Trump and all this. I said, no, the most vicious political issue I've ever experienced in my career is water. It turns brother against brother, state against state, federal government against state government against local government. It's just a vicious thing. And water is becoming a big deal. Now, I'm of the opinion that like Arizona, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, these states are just, they were always in a water deficit in terms of water availability against growing populations. Okay. But here in California, we really don't have that problem. Here in California, we have plenty of water. We just don't manage it well at all. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. I mean, you got water going from Shasta all the way down to LA. You got the Hetch Hetchy going to Frisco. I mean, there's a lot of things we could do right now with the water we have. We could change, but has not going to change due to environmentalists and the greed of the South and the big cities. Water is the key to society surviving, because it provides water for you to drink and also water for you to farm. So if you take that away, what do you have? People can't survive without water and food. So this big debate of water is crazy to me, because in the end they're shooting themselves in the foot, because you need water and just to make food. It's just incredible why they think that they can take it away from a farmer who is all they're trying to do is, one, make a living, and two, provide food for you. I mean, that's our job, is to provide food for the masses. And that's how my dad and I think, and that's how we operate. And it's just crazy that the water situation, they want to take it from you. And from our living, one, because we won't be able to make any money without any water, and two, you're not going to be able to feed people. I mean, the Central Valley, if there's no agriculture, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing in California without aquaculture.
And that's exactly, I think, that you hit the nail right on the head. Me, from the political point of view, I don't think a lot of people, times have been fairly good, and I don't think a lot of people have really paid attention to the plight of the farmer and the water situation and the commodities and all this. But now they are, because now people are asking, like, how do we live in the richest, most freest, most blessed country in the world? And yet we're paying exorbitant amounts of money for milk, eggs, product, farm produce, et cetera, et cetera. Well, how is this possible? Now people are starting to figure it out. And I think the left is going to have a very hard time explaining to people why a small Delta smelt, for instance, in California's instance. And I should point out for our listeners who don't live in California, when Chris says the South, he's not taking a shot on Alabama and South Carolina and Florida. He's taking a shot at LA.
Yes,
Californians, we say the South, we mean everything south of Bakersfield.
Yes,
the South. So
over the grapevine.
My point is I think there's a lot of working class people who are like, listen, we may care about the environment. And I think everybody should care about the environment. We should take care of this little marble that we all live on. Yeah. And certainly I think we can do better. Everyone could do better, taking better care of this creation, right? But we have an obligation to put food on people's tables. And I know it's cliche, and I hate using cliches. Not really. I use them all the time. But food grows where water flows. And and here in California, you're talking about all the movement of water through the aqueducts and the aquifer and all this stuff. We are letting an exorbitant amount of water that we could be putting to the ground to farmers just go right out to the ocean, or really kind of, in my opinion, just bozo environmental things where, like, listen, I think we should take efforts to protect the fish and the fisheries and all this stuff. I agree with all of that. The Delta has been abused by stuff all there. I can agree with all of that, but I think you have to prioritize, right? You have to triage. And in this crisis of a drought that we're in, California does not have to be like Arizona and Nevada, but it's politically expedient for some. And pushing, I mean, the millions and millions and millions, probably billions, really, gallons of water we just press out to the ocean for no other reason than to appease environmentalism. Is really hurting the working class person at the grocery store.
Gas prices are $6 a gallon and everything's higher. So I know that they are having problems, just like I am personally. Cost of living is way up. I just got to be more financially aware of what's going on. But yeah, it's incredible what the environmentalists have done to the state. Like, of course, we can manage our water better, but going decades back, this is tying into your point about the environmentalists and the water situation. They could have put more reservoir dams everywhere throughout all the watershed systems to create more storage capacity so that we could, help spread out our drought. And, we can't control the weather. Nobody can, but you can prepare and have risk management and say, hey, I can have a certain amount of reservoir capacity and to help, spread it out. And, back in 2017, when we had all that rain, we were dumping water over our dams because we had so much water. Well, what if we had 3 or 4 extra dams on each watershed? How much extra water we could have had to help with farmers and everything else? Like, it's incredible why they won't. And it's frustrating because they have taken so much power.
Well, Chris, I mean, first, that's what we call common sense. And in Sacramento, we don't believe in that.
Yeah, there's no common sense.
You might as well be talking about a unicorn, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you. And I hear your frustration. I just, we're short on time. I have two final questions. So the second to last question is this: as a grower, what do you think has to change to improve from the government side? Like, whether it's Democrats or Republicans in power, if you had the ability to go up there and actually talk to somebody who can actually change something, what would you tell them to make what is clearly a broken policy position across the board? It's just nothing. It doesn't pass the logic test, and nothing really in government in this country does. But in this particular case, in agriculture, what has to change to make this common sense and make this better beyond just additional water storage?
Well, I would say the thing I would change first and foremost is that farmers are your friend, not your enemy, and they need to change that dynamic between politicians and farmers. And there should be a more of a friendship rather than looking down on us like we're idiots and we don't know what we're doing and that we're trying to hurt everybody. That's not our end goal. I'd say that would be the first thing. And the second thing, in the immediate realm of things, to change the flow of a product, the supply chains, especially in the ports where people are blocking the ports so we can't get a product out, and vice versa, where the longshoresmen aren't wanting to get automation because we're not, they're worried about taking their jobs. So we're becoming inefficient. I would say the supply chain would be the biggest issue that I could say, hey, we need to fix this right here now to where we could get our product moving. Because that's what, in our industry anyways, and I know everybody else had to help too, because it would just help to get their product around, and it'd lower costs and get better prices for everything.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense. So it probably won't happen, but it just, I mean, that seems
it makes sense, but
sense
nobody thinks that makes sense, or we think, yeah.
We have seen a fundamental shift of the working class across the country, not everywhere, but across the majority of the country, a fundamental shift against all demographics towards the right, as the working class is frustrated with government and the policy positions that the majority party has taken. I'm curious, and we have seen that now. And what's really interesting, though, is it's kind of a wash a little bit, in the sense that college educated folks are moving to the left during this time. So it's kind of a shift in what we have seen, especially college educated white people. That's neither here nor there for this conversation. But I'm curious because I haven't seen in all the polling, we haven't gone out there and just polled farmers, right? We're in an election season, so we're trying to poll what we think the electorate is going to look like. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, you're in the farming community, and there are Republican farmers and there are Democrat farmers. There are farmers who are big donors and supporters to the Democratic Party, especially here in California, because they want to influence some of these policy decisions that are breaking their backs. Are you seeing any shift in your Democratic counterparts who may have supported Democrats and Democratic policies in the past to really no results? Is there any shift going on in California, at least, where you're seeing some of these more Democrat focused farmers going, hey, I might have to jump to the other side because this ain't working, and we gotta change up the game. What is there any shift, or do you think it's just so tribalistic that those farmers they're going to stick with their politics despite the damage being done to their industry?
Honestly, I only know of one Democratic farmer in my area. Everybody I talk to is conservative and thinks the way I do. So I can't really answer that question, but I know at the end of the day, when you're trying to run a business and your wallet, you're where you make your money, if you're getting more money taken out of your bank than coming in, at the end of the day, you're going to be to a breaking point, right? So there's got to be a point where they're losing so much money, or where they have to switch their ideas, their way of thinking. So, like I said, I don't know of I haven't heard of anybody that, is voted Democratic around me. I know there is. I've seen one farmer, or when the last election cycle, there was farmers for Biden, one sign. So, I don't know. I can't speak to that per se, but I know at the end of the day, if you're running a business and you get money taken out of it and you're not making as much, you're going to have to change something. So.
Yeah, Chris, I really do appreciate your thoughts. I wish we could talk about this for the next 3 hours. It's so fascinating, and fortunately, I don't have the time. And my producers beat the crap out of me every time we go over an hour. Definitely going over an hour on this podcast.
Not a problem.
Hey, I really do appreciate it. I'd love to have you back someday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'd come back for sure
about this, because agriculture affects everything globally, not just nationally, but it is one of the major industries in this country. Yes. And if it ever goes tits up, so does our economy. And I think people really should pay attention to that. And there's not enough talk about the agricultural industry and taking good care of that, cultivating that industry, for yet another cliche. So, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And good luck in the harvest. Good luck in the harvest, and
good luck to you too in your political adventure.
That was Chris VanderStoel. Chris, thank you for being on the show this week. We appreciate it. 2 weeks in a row, we've tried to have a law enforcement professional to talk about crime and law enforcement. 2 weeks in a row now, we've lost our law enforcement professional because, well, crime is happening in the world, Alyssa, apparently. But we really do appreciate, Chris, you joining the show. We hope to have you back. Very interesting conversation. Now it's time to go to the Grunt's perspective, because I have some real damn issues with people getting into other people's business where they shouldn't be in. I don't understand what this is about the world. The Karen effect. It's growing. We've made fun of Karens for a decade now, and yet they still continue to expand like amoebas in a damn petri dish, Alyssa. It's driving me nuts. It's driving me crazy. I don't know the politics of this lady. The first time I heard about her is when Finland decided to join NATO. Here's what I do know about her. She's 36 years old. Pretty much my age. Youngest person to ever hold the office of Prime Minister of Finland. Third woman in the country's history to hold the office. This is somebody who's a vegetarian, and we're going to try our best not to hold that against her. Okay. Listen, I joke about veganism and vegetarianism. I don't give two craps at what people's diets are, but eat meat. I kid. She's a vegetarian. She's the first person in her family's history to graduate from college.
Wow. Good for her.
And you know what else? This is a successful woman. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who's not stupid, right? You want to know, she had adoptive parents. So by every statistical margin, this is somebody who maybe shouldn't be successful in life, or had a lot going against her on paper. I don't know what her childhood was. But here in the United States, if you're in foster kid or you're at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. We know that. Alyssa, this is somebody who appears to me on the surface to be a strong leader, who is capable, who is successful, who has achieved considerable success and power at a very young age, who clearly earned the trust of her country at a very young age as a woman in Eastern Europe.
Hard to do.
Alyssa, this is the attack. We're just going to go to the video right now. This is the attack on Sanna Marin, Finland's prime minister, because she decided to let her hair down and have a good time.
Finland's Prime Minister Sanna Marin has defended her private life after a video emerged of her at a party with friends. She's pictured at a private residence with Finnish singer Elma, a member of parliament, and other celebrities. Opposition leaders are calling on her to take a voluntary drug test, saying a shadow of doubt has been casted over the leader. These videos are private, Sanna Marin has told reporters. I'm displeased they have been spread out to the public. I was spending an evening with my friends, partying, dancing and singing. A journalist asks were there any intoxicants used. Alcohol, the Prime Minister says. Drugs, another reporter asks. Not to my knowledge, says the leader. Finland's youngest Prime Minister says she will not change in the wake of the controversy. Last year, she apologised for visiting a bar after coming into contact with someone who had coronavirus. She was criticised but ultimately found to not have broken any rules.
That story, that little segment from Euronews, a news organization from the European Union, this prime minister today had to explain why she was at a private residence with her personal friends off the clock. It wasn't like they invited a camera crew to come in there and film them partying and having a good time. All she's doing is dancing and drinking. There's one news story that, she's gyrating. What? We just saw the video. Let's, you know what? For everybody watching on YouTube, for those listening on the podcast, you're going to have to bear with us another 30 seconds. But let's just watch the raw video for a minute. Because this video from The Sun, which is an British publication, PM goes wild, party singing and thrusting in leaked video. Let's just watch this for a second. No one's even touching each other. They're just dancing to some silly Finnish pop song I can't understand. And these people are white as hell too. They're all white, but Finland's a very white country, I guess. Prime Minister's hugging her friend. Let's lock her up. What if this is why no one gives a shit about the media anymore. There's nothing here. It's a 36-year-old woman partying with her friends in a private residence, and somebody leaked the video, probably for money or whatever. And the opposition parties in this country have the audacity to demand she takes a drug test. There's nothing. There's no sign of drugs, not even marijuana, which I'm not sure if it's legal or illegal in Finland. Alyssa, there's nothing here.
It's embarrassing. The things that we choose to pay attention to rather than real issues.
Do you think if this was a man partying in a video that this would have even been a news story?
No, I don't understand why. And it's like the Karen thing you mentioned. Someone made fun of her, so everyone else wants to jump on the bandwagon and everyone has to add their 2 cents in. Making it from her going dancing at a party with her friends to now being questioned for drugs when she did nothing wrong.
And globally, both the right and the left have this problem. This is why I'm so libertarian-minded. This is why I think a lot of veterans, and this again is a podcast first and foremost made by veterans for veterans, But as we always say, you civilian types, you're welcome here at the Oasis to sit down at the bar to take a break from this crap. Leave this woman alone. She did nothing. You act right now. We should have done this story today. There is a city council member, I think from New Jersey, who literally hit with a car one of her constituents at an intersection who was on a bicycle crossing the intersection. I don't know who was at fault. I watched the video. It looked like it was red for the bicycle. The bicycle should not have crossed the busy intersection. Mm-hmm. And the council member had the green light, and she hit this person.
Still got to pay attention. Yeah,
but you can't leave the goddamn scene. And that's what this council member did. She literally hit and run. She is being investigated for hit and run. And and her entire town has called her to resign. And she's refusing defiantly to resign. And she feels like she's the victim in this whole situation, that people are being mean. That she lives a private life, Alyssa, this councilwoman. We'll put a link of that news story for you on YouTube here in the description. That is something worthy of criticizing and chastising an elected leader for. Mm-hmm. Hitting one of your constituents with an automobile and then leaving the scene, that's news. That is worthy. This is bullshit. This is sexism. This is everything wrong with the Western world. This is an elected leader, a successful woman. I don't know her politics. She's European, so I'm sure I have a problem with a lot of it, personally. Leave this woman alone. You know what? It's probably goddamn healthy. More world leaders should probably let their hair down in politics, and there'd be a lot less crazier shit happening in the world. This woman has a lot of pressure at a young age, and all she did was try to go and enjoy life. Like, this is what happens. Celebrities and elected officials and people in power, the moment we restrict them from being normal in life, that's when they start to become abnormal in life. This is what people do this in their backyards on barbecues in the weekend, Alyssa. Yep. This is what,
She didn't deserve that.
We have our pool parties, we have our barbecues, people go to clubs, people go out to bars. This is normal behavior. This makes me want to vote for her more because I look at her dancing and having a good time and go, she's one of us.
She's normal.
She's normal. That's right, Alyssa. She's normal. The right and the left across the Western world, and certainly Republicans and Democrats, far right and far left in our country, get into other people's business too much. If there's ever a third party, that platform was leave my personal stuff alone and run the government, I would be immediately a member of that party. I would immediately be a member of that party. What goes on in your house, as long as you're not committing felonious acts, abusing your children, abusing your spouse and partners or friends or whatever. I don't care what goes on in your house. It's not my business. And what I do in my house is not your business. What I do with my friends in a private party is not your business. Just because she's the prime minister doesn't give anybody the right to go into her private life because one of her friends, she learned a valuable lesson today about friends in politics, by the way. But one of her friends obviously leaked this video for money or 15 seconds of fame or whatever, and they're pieces of shit, by the way.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about that. Her privacy, she has a right to privacy. She has a right to have a good time and have joy in her life. And we sit here and we criticize politicians. We just said it earlier on the show. I bet 99 out of 100 politicians we survey across this country couldn't tell us what the national average of gas or the price of milk or the price of bread or the price of cheese is here in the United States. I bet my mortgage on it. And this is how that happens because we separate these people. Politicians shouldn't be celebrities.
Nope.
They're servants.
And we shouldn't attack any sense of normalcy either. We almost fault them for being human.
You know what? Good on this Prime Minister. Cheers to you, Sanna Marin. Cheers to you. It's not your business.
Nope.
This wasn't an official event. This was her in her private time doing nothing abnormal. It wasn't like she took her shirt off and flashed the camera, or she pulled a fat blunt out, lit that sucker up, or looked like frickin' Cheech and Chong with the bong. Okay, she didn't do any of that. This is sexism at its highest. This is everything wrong with the right. They have nothing. The right wing of Finland clearly has nothing on this woman, and this is all they can get. This woman's going to be reelected. I guarantee it. But to put this woman all over the news and ask her questions in the attempt to incriminate her because she was dancing at a party is tyrannical. Mm-hmm. The right loves that word, tyranny. Tyrannical. Well, you're being tyrants, right-wingers in Finland. You're being tyrants. Knock it off. The left does the same thing. They want to take people's guns away. Yep. Law-abiding citizens. We can't pick and choose, guys, right and left-wingers. You can't pick and choose. You know what? That's just, we're going long on this segment, and I'm going off the rails because this pisses me off. I cannot believe this woman had to go through this week. Everything wrong with the media, everything wrong with our society, everything wrong with politics. This is bullshit. This is tabloid media. This is Karen drama. This is for all the keyboard warriors on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatever else social media, because I'm old now and I don't know.
TikTok.
Chinese government intelligence apparatus. That's all that is. I've been very mouthy, Alyssa. I apologize. I'm curious. You're a woman, like real quick. Like, you know, you're a woman in politics, and as a woman in politics, I'm curious to know how this makes you feel.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a case of someone being in someone else's business when they're not supposed to be. There's a lot more women in politics now, but even then, it's still not the numbers of men. And so she's achieved something that was probably really difficult for her to do. And just by going to a party, all of that she's worked for has been questioned for what? I don't understand why it's not okay for her to go to a party. And this is what I said last week as well. It makes it difficult for good people who want to see a change to be in politics because you're criticized over things like this and then have to go on media stating that you didn't do drugs when you simply just went to a party to have fun and to get a moment of fresh air.
It's like, just mind your own business.
Yeah.
Mind your own business. Like, it's no one's business that she dances and parties. Did you elect her? For a I hope they didn't elect her for a dancing skill. Boy. Woo. Finland, y'all got some work to do. y'all got some work to do. You might want to get some diversity in your country. Listen, I am no great dancer. I can do the worm. You know that.
He can do the worm.
It's my only move. The point I'm trying to make is you didn't elect her for her dancing. You elected her for her leadership. And obviously, she seems to be doing something right because she gave Vladimir Putin the finger. Double, like Stone Cold Steve Austin style. Good for her. Judge her on her politics, not her personal life or her dancing skill. This is sexism. This is Karenism. This is just wrong. And it bothers me because I can only imagine that young women who maybe want to get into public service or politics look at this and go, "This is a bullshit double standard."
Yeah.
No guy would ever have to be subjected to this.
There'd be no story. Absolutely not a question. There would be no story written if a guy wanted to go out and party and drink. Or dance. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But this has made national news. International. Just because she decided to. It's ridiculous. And then for us to jump on the bandwagon as well.
God forbid, the leader of an entire nation who borders Russia. This woman's next door neighbor is Vladimir Putin. Imagine if you had a neighbor, Karens, all you Karens out there. Imagine if your neighbor was Vladimir Putin. You don't think you wouldn't be stressed out? You wouldn't want to, pour a little bourbon back, light a little cigar up. She definitely wasn't dancing to the blues music I listen to, but my point is mind your own business. That's the Grunt's perspective this week. Mind your damn business. And you know what, Western world, all you woke news media out there, woke European Union who always criticizes our social failures here in the United States, put your own house in order. Because this news story didn't start in my country. It started in your guys' countries. This started in the European Union. fix your own house before you come over here and try to fix the United States. This is crap. And my heart goes out to the Prime Minister of Finland, and I hope she gives everybody the Stone Cold Steve Austin fingers and goes about her business. Mm-hmm. And that's the Grunt's perspective this week. Alyssa, let us go now to the three-pointer segment. Let us talk about the questions and comments that you guys have written in. You can always write us on the show at electrecon, electsingularrecon@gmail.com. We pick 3 comments or questions to respond to on the show. And you guys picked some piffy ones this week, so I'm ready. I'm ready because this last segment has me so fired up. I'm ready to take on all comers. Bring it. Just bring it.
You guys sent in some really good ones. I've been waiting to get to this segment. So, comment on last week's video. Someone said 10,000 views, no comments. Right. From Death Proof on YouTube.
Say over 10,000 views. No. Okay, yeah, I got it. Listen, guy. Death Proof. What a name, by the way. We hold all comments for review because keyboard warriors like yourself, guy, tend to be nasty to each other. In the 2020 election, we got a little hand slappy for not what's the word? What are the moderators? For not moderating our channel. And quite frankly, you guys are mean to each other. You guys are a-holes. It's okay to be an a-hole to me. I don't care. You can be an a-hole to me, but you guys are mean to each other. And you get all crazy on the social media, get out of control, treat each other like crap because you guys are only courageous when you're hiding behind your keyboard. So yes, the video goes out, people view and they comment, and then Lauren and Jeff go through the comments and approve what can and cannot be put up there because there are some inappropriate things, there are some racist things, there are some bigotry, racism, outright death threats. We're going to check it. So why don't you just know your role, Death Proof? Shut your mouth and just settle down for a little bit because obviously your comment was accepted. Relax, guy. Okay? Thank you. Next question.
This one's even better. It says, you are an effing retard. The media and the deep state control the polling. The whole effing thing is pre-effing determined by the deep state. Quit being an effing zombie, you effing sheep. By Marcus D. in Bakersfield. A Californian, of course.
The old Beer Can Hill. Up in Bakersfield. That's a Merle Haggard song. Listen, guy. If you believe that, then don't vote. You get the government you deserve. I don't believe in this right-wing conspiracy theory that everything's rigged. Certainly in our state here of California, are the election laws weighted to support Democrats and the Democratic voting base? Sure. Absolutely, I believe that. Same-day registration, it takes 8,000 years to count votes because we let ballots come in from like the beginning of time. People are voting at the Big Bang right now for 2020, and we're still counting their ballots. I kid, of course. It's ridiculous how long it takes states like Washington and California to count ballots. It's insane. It's ridiculous. But I don't understand your tinfoil hat, right-wing conspiracy nut job theory that the elections are all rigged against Republicans. It is so hard. I'm going to tell you right now, the more people like you on your side of the aisle spout that nonsense, the less people like you are going to go out and vote. Mm-hmm. And if you don't vote, you sure as hell ain't going to win the election. Believe what you want. I'm not trying to step on your opinion. You obviously are very passionate about it. But, if you really believe that the whole system's rigged, then why are you even talking about politics? Shut the hell up and go do whatever it is that you do. Okay? Because, decisions are made by those who show up. So show up and make the decisions. Instead of bitching about the rules and the system and all this stuff, convince people why you're right. Convince people why this is a genius idea I'm having here. Huge epiphany. Go out and convince everyone else that your way is the right way and then have it passed into law. That's how our representative constitutional republic works. And you know what? Oftentimes in democracy, we lose. Get over it. This is a much better system than being in China or Russia, guy. How about that? That's where real tyranny exists. And both sides, when they're out of power, oh, the other side's oppressing me. Oh, I am in bondage and all this stuff. The left does it, the right does it. You don't even know what oppression is. Go to Russia. Go to Ukraine right now. Go to Ukraine right now. You'll see oppression. Talk to a Uyghur Muslim in China right now. You'll know what oppression is. Stop it with your dramatics, America. I'm tired of it. Next question.
I was wondering, because you're a veteran and a politician, what do you think about President Biden possibly trading a Russian weapons dealer for Brittney Griner in Russia? From KH.
Where's
in
Kate?
Sacramento.
It's another California. Lots of Californians. That's actually like a really good question. Thank you, Kate, for bringing some reason into this discussion after those two piffy comments. And listen, folks, you can write in your piffy comments. I really don't care. We'll take them all on. But we'll give back as good as we get it. Mm-hmm. Know that. What was her name again? Kate? Mm-hmm. Kate. Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I want Brittney Griner home. I have a friend, a female friend, who protested in Russia. She was arrested. She went through hell. I've heard her experience about being in, they don't even call them prisons. They're called prison colonies, a.k.a. gulags, where they're forced to work. My friend who was arrested in Russia was sewing shirts or uniforms or something like 6 days a week, 12 plus hours a day, didn't have a choice in the matter. Okay? So the point that I'm trying to make here is I do not believe the Russians treated this woman fairly. I don't know. I know she is admitted to having cannabis. I know a lot of American professional athletes do have cannabis and they treat it for medicinal purposes. I know a lot of veterans who use cannabis, by the way, for medicinal purposes, and it's helpful. But she also knew that if she did intentionally bring it into the country, she knew it was illegal. I don't like telling other countries what to do, but let's be clear. I've seen a lot of hate against this woman because I understand she has issues with like the national anthem and she's like BLM and she has a right to her opinion. She has a right to express herself however she wants. So I know there's a lot of right-wingers that don't like this woman because of her political beliefs and her issues with the flag and the national anthem and her own country. I'm willing to bet 2 dimes to a nickel she wishes she was in the United States tonight. And I would not wish being in a Russian prison where sexual assaults, torture, abuse, forced labor, and enslavement happen every minute of every hour of every day. I don't care what your political feelings are. Those people hating on this woman from the right, this woman is going through a hell you can't even imagine. And you're laughing and celebrating about it. Yeah, that's disgusting, people who are doing that. That I want her home. She's an American citizen. I don't care what she did. I don't want her locked up in a tyrannical, evil empire jail cells. But that being said, I don't know if I could justify literally giving the Lord of War, a massive weapons trafficker that took, who's probably responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of American soldiers who actively tried to harm and kill American citizens abroad. This guy is a terrorist at the highest level. If Al-Qaeda fighters are like the drug dealers, they're dealing out terror, guys like this are the cooks. This dude is cooking the drugs to hand to the dealers so that the terrorist organizations can make money. I don't know if I can justify that trade. I don't know if I could do that. I'm happy that I don't have to make that decision. Man, it's tough. Because I'm telling you what, if that was my sister or my family member or my friend, you can bet your ass that I'd be like, put him on a plane, first class. I want my family member back. I would be biased. If that was my family member, yeah, I don't give a... That dude could have killed 1 million people, and I still would want my family member back. Let's be clear about that. But that's why we don't negotiate with terrorists. That's why we don't do deals like this. That's the reason why that principle has been in place. It's been eroded over the last 20 years or so, but that's the original deal. And Russia is a terrorist state. Mm-hmm. They're a terrorist state. It's not a democracy. It's a mafia who runs a country and has nuclear weapons. They captured Brittney Griner exactly for this. They want something out of it. And man, that's just so tough. That's a great question. I'm going to have to think about it. I hope, I pray, I want the Biden administration to get a win here. I want this woman home, but I don't know. The price may be too high. It may be too high to let this guy out and trade her. I don't know. That's up to people way higher than me. So I hope I answered your question, Kate. It's a good question. I don't really feel like I answered it. I'm really good at answering questions. That's a tough one for me. So I really do appreciate you writing in. What do you think, Alyssa?
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, that's a tough one, and I would have to think about it just because he did a lot of bad, but she also doesn't deserve what's happening to her.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were a collegiate basketball player. She's a professional basketball player. It's crazy how, like, you can just go somewhere and make one little mistake and your life is ruined.
Yeah. How
fragile it is. And it's a lesson. Like, you know, it is a lesson. I agree with the people on the right who have made the comments like, oh, yeah, bet you are back in your oppressive United States now, don't you?
Yeah.
But see, that's like on the surface, I agree with it, but they're saying it to be a mean thing.
Yeah.
I really hope she's learned a real lesson in the sense of like, hey, you know what? My country here in the United States may have problems.
But not like that.
But man, there are a lot worse places in the world. We got work to do here in the United States, perhaps, but man, it's a blessing to be an American citizen.
It is.
And I hope she's learned that lesson. I really do, because she doesn't, regardless of her politics or her political opinion, nobody deserves what she's going through right now. Nobody. That's going to do it for this episode of the Election Recon Podcast. That's Alyssa. I'm Josh. Thank you so much for being here again. Like, subscribe, do all the things that make Jeff and Lauren not yell at me. We do appreciate the growing audience. Please share, comment, criticize. You can email us at electrecon@gmail.com, elect singular, recon@gmail.com. DM us or add us at social media at Election Recon. That's at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, Election Recon on YouTube and this podcast wherever you can get your podcast: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Stitcher, yada, yada, yada. We do appreciate you. We do this for you. We don't make any money. We just simply try to be a breath of fresh air in the world of bullshit spinning around you. This is the Oasis. I'm Josh, and that's Alyssa, and we'll see you next week.